You got a game in 2 days. I don't care. I want to get this squat in. You got to love it, but at the same time, I also have to do my job and be able to say, not a good idea, man. It's not a good idea. And my guys know there's a certain guy on our team that I have to literally take him to the squat rack, and I have to stand there and I have to control everything he does. Otherwise, he's just going to keep putting plates on until he can't do another set, and that is in season on a Wednesday because he loves to lift. Our squat stuff, okay? This is an older one. Again, we didn't have the boxes. You can see my guy right here, Garrett McIntyre, firefighter now, squatting barefoot. We have a safety bar on the second rack. That's why I like this one. We have a lot of guys working here with different things. Garrett was a huge valgus guy, huge knees come in heavy on the squat, but he was a decent squatter. But the shoes really didn't help him, so we did that. Nick Ballore, the guy behind him with the red shoes, okay, Mark had him in San Francisco. He is a big, strong guy, and he was into the Olympic shoes for some reason, so he used those. But again, with the squat, it's on a cadence. We're giving it to him, and everything's kind of in control, and we can see and coach these guys. So the same thing, we'll use it on all our lifts. The tempo will change. We'll go 5 seconds down. We'll go 3 seconds down. We'll continue to change that. You guys have all seen that. But we try to use that on a lot of our lifts, especially in the off season, because the biggest thing I found is it helps control the weights for our guys. So rather than, a guy can squat 500 pounds, he's squatting 365 and he's struggling to get 5 reps. And it allows us to kind of take some of that weight off their back, make them work a little bit more. And as Buddy said before, that eccentric training goes a long way. So we like to work in as much eccentric training as we can, especially in the off season. In season, it'll be a little different. We'll vary it, especially because we have guys beat up. We won't necessarily want to keep taxing them, especially with the heavier lifts. Maybe some of our single leg stuff, we'll do some eccentric training. But we'll use that all the time. Adjusting to varying needs. So some stuff here is we bring guys in, again, practice tempo or volume, the player's load basically, right? So I need to be always paying, I kind of come back to this, but I need to pay attention to everything and I need to adjust. We call ourselves the valve with the Jets. We're the valve. So if they go out to practice and, again, we end up running 5 half gassers at the end of practice, we do 10 rerun plays. All of a sudden this practice has went from a moderate practice to a very heavy practice. Well, when they come in the weight room, I need to look at these guys. I need to already have a plan in my head to adjust and make sure that we can turn it down a little bit. Because, again, when it comes down to it, it's not about me, it's about winning games. And what's the best way to win games? Well, for starters, for us, is keeping guys on the field. So if they come in, they had a heavy load, I'm like, no, we're squatting today. We're getting after it. We're going to load them up. I can't do that. It doesn't make any sense. I need to be able to adjust to what our head coach is doing. Because if I don't, I'm not going to last very long because they're just all going to keep getting beat up. Or if I did it before practice, say if I don't know what's going on in practice, it's in camp. Sometimes it's, things are constantly changing. We might have a lift before practice. Well, as Coach said before, I'm not squatting these guys heavy before practice. Our skill guys aren't squatting. They might be doing, something on our leg press or our belt squat. They might be doing a goblet. Is it ideal? Is it necessarily what I would always do? No, but I have to adjust. I have to make adjustments when you practice 7 days in a row or 6 days in a row. I have to adjust to these guys, especially the receiver volume to an offensive lineman volume. Offensive lineman comes in during camp. Do I want to put him on to do 6 sets of bench, then 6 sets of incline dumbbell? No, he just spent the entire thing with a sandbag and a med ball doing kick slides. His shoulders are shot right now. His wrists, he can't, from all the jamming, he can't do anything. So I need to be able to adjust that. Quarterback, same thing. I can't just bring him in and do whatever I want. I have to be very aware of their torso. How many throws did they take? What's the rotation? How much on their arm? What's the age of this guy? I had a 34-year-old and we had a 21-year-old last year at quarterback, right? And everything in between. So I have to adjust each guy. Every guy, one guy might be going 2 days a week, one guy might be going 3 days a week. I have to adjust, and I have to be very aware of that. And, again, if I have it written down, it doesn't mean I'm doing it. You can ask my guys all the time. They'll be like, are we doing this? No, we're going to change this. Let's do this. We have to be able to adjust on the fly. For me, one of the things before I go to this one, I kind of talk about that, but my first year in the NFL, that was the only time I ever worked for anybody. So 2012, I came from Villanova. I went to the Jets. I was an assistant for 8 months. I had never worked for anybody before. And one of the things that I saw was whatever was on the piece of paper, that's what we did. There was no thinking about, well, man, practice just changed. These guys are shot. It's Wednesday, these guys are shot. We got to do something. There was ever no thought of that, and it just was continually beat down, beat down, beat down. And, you know, that's the one thing I realized, and probably I didn't do that well before at Villanova, but, you know, as I progressed and I got moved up, that was the first thing I said, like, I need to be watching and I need to adjust on the fly. I have to do a better job adjusting as we see these guys breaking down, getting tired. He's more tired than that guy because he played. He's on the practice squad. He's a role player. He's a starter. I have to pay attention to that, and I have to be able to adjust. Our starters want to lift harder than the practice squad. It's messed up. But they want to lift harder, and they can't. I can't let them do that. I can't let Brandon Marshall come in and squat 500 pounds. I can't do that. I have to keep them at a lower percentage for myself and really take care of him, okay? But that's a guy who wants to get in there and do more. That's usually what happens. So I need to be always adjusting for all that stuff. The player's age. Again, kind of going, Buddy talked about this too. These are all modifications. I can't do the same thing. When I was 21, I can't do the same thing I am at the same age I am now. I can't do it. I wish I could. I still feel like I can, and then it doesn't work out real well. But we have to adjust for these guys. We have to know what their recovery, you know, if I have a guy and I know he doesn't eat great, he doesn't hydrate great, I have to spend more time talking to that guy about, hey, drink water. It sounds silly. We have guys that won't drink water because they want to make weight. Guys won't drink water because, you know, they don't want to be 10 pounds overweight or 2 pounds overweight, excuse me, because it's $600 a pound. Well, if you're 2 pounds overweight, you're probably not getting fined for that anyways. Number two, we go back to our bod pod. If a guy goes up 5 pounds in season, right, but it's 5 pounds of muscle mass, am I going to fine him? Am I going to go to our head coach and be like, we need to fine this guy? No. Not if everything has kind of gotten better. Maybe his fat went down a couple pounds, his muscle went up. That's where we kind of use our bod pod. But all these things I have to be aware of how a guy who's 20 years old, 20-year-old rookie versus a 36-year-old outside linebacker, those are completely different bodies. And I have to always be aware of what's going on with them and how they're doing. Heavy communication with these guys. This is a huge one, travel. You know, the NFL, we played 3 Saturday games this year. We played 1 Thursday. We played 2 Monday night games. And we had 2 West Coast trips. That's a bear. Guys who are in the NFL know that's a bear. Like, you are constantly, you have to change your program. So in a Thursday night game, I can only lift 1 time that week. I can't play Sunday and then expect them to be ready to go if we lift again on Wednesday. It doesn't make any sense. I count back from the game, set up what I need to do. It might be a deload. I might work in a deload week. I might have to just do something different, some mobility, things like that. But all that stuff has to be taken into account because I can't just, again, do what I want to do. I constantly have to adjust. And for us this year, you know, it took a toll on us where, you know, we played a couple Saturday games. We play Sunday and then we play Saturday and then we'd play Monday or something like, some type of weird schedule. And you completely lost 2 weeks of training just trying to let the guys get back from the West Coast game. We went to San Francisco and played and then flew back, and then we had a home Monday night game. There's a lot of stuff, and you have to be able to adjust. And again, if I'm not able to adjust on the fly and make those changes, depending on how those guys are feeling, I'm in a lot of trouble. So all those things are huge for us trying to do that. Time, excused or unexcused miss. Well, if a guy misses, right, maybe he missed the whole last week. He took the $36,000 fine. Well, I can't just bring him back the next week and just continue on his card where he was because that's not going to work. It's not going to work. I have to be able to adjust to that. The short week equals short lifts in and out. Things change. I must adapt. Current injuries, previous injuries, or a healthy player. All these things I have to take into consideration. If a guy's had 3 ACLs or a guy's had 4 shoulder surgeries, maybe had 2 rotator cuffs and 2 labrums, maybe 3 of those were on the same side. A guy had a Liz Frank, guys had AC sprain, all that stuff we have to be able to take into account and have a plan for what that guy's doing. So as that guy comes back in, you know, maybe it's a previous injury or maybe it's a current injury. What do we do for those things? And again, with a great staff, I'm able to do that pretty easy, but I have to have a plan. I have to have the modifications ready to go for those guys. If it's a healthy guy, we can let it run. But maybe that healthy guy, all of a sudden, I don't feel real good. My shoulder's been hurt and someone stuck their helmet in it at practice today. What do we do and how are we adjusting? So all these things are modifications that I have to be able to make. Some of the things we'll do with our guys, going through the modifications. Pretty simple stuff here, but just a lot of varying things that we can add in. And some of this stuff we'll just add in anyways, but these are things, if I got a shoulder guy, the safety bar squat, we'll use the pit sharks, belt squat stuff. For guys that have upper body injuries, leg press, all that stuff will work in for different guys. External motivation for our guys, so something we do with the team, you know, again, to motivate these large groups and how to get them motivated. We do the Iron Jet for us, and it's a parking spot. And you would be shocked how important a parking spot is to somebody, because when they get to the facility, they're running 5 to 10 minutes late, and there's no parking spots except for the very back one, and they get that front one, and the GM can see their front spot. You know, that's a huge thing. So we're down to 5 spots at the facility and at our camp hotel, and I'm telling you, it's huge. These guys die for this thing. They want to win that award to get that parking spot. We give them recliners, fridges in their room, so different things like that just to keep them motivated. You know, our criteria, I just thought this would be good general information for what we look for. You know, attends all scheduled lifts. We know the off season is optional. We're all aware of that. We just want to cover that. An Iron Jet demonstrates the Jet's attitude. He's a leader, not necessarily a starter. So, you know, leadership doesn't necessarily mean, you know, lead by example. So leading by example is doing your job. You know, what do you do extra to be that leader? If you come in and you do everything we ask of you, are you leader by example, or are you just, you're a guy that does his job right? And we still appreciate that. But a leader is a guy who's not afraid to step up and say, man, get your shit right. Pick your stuff up. Put that away. Throw your water bottle out. You know, little things like that. Like those are what we're looking for. Both verbal and by example. An Iron Jet does what is asked of them, and the players vote on it, and we also vote on it as a strength staff. The coaches don't vote on it. We vote on it. We give our vote of who we think should be in there too. So just something easy. Going back to stay organized, you can see Matt Forte, year 10 maybe for him. Long time with the Chicago Bears, but he comes in and he's a guy that's very diligent in how he works. Being able to write stuff down. We're a card team. We use cards. It just makes sense for me personally. I know some people don't do it. Other people have iPads now. Other people, you know, all kinds of stuff out there. For me, you know, the paper way has been the easiest for me, just because I can constantly change that way easier than going into a computer program that has to shoot to the iPads, and then it might not work, so now I'm really screwed and I have to print them out anyway. So we use all percentages for our lift. We put a value on almost every lift, so every exercise will have some type of value for a percentage. And after our main lift, the only reason we do that is because you guys all know we go to, all right, we got dumbbell rows. Coach, what should I start at? So we kind of give them an idea of where they should be at. And I initially wasn't a huge fan of it, but it helped us kind of get guys set. So when they walk over to do shrugs, well, this is where you should be about for a starting weight. And from there, we let guys move up a little bit. Players' individual their modifications for what each guy needs. Players' notes for every lift, so when we're done, hey, Aaron, what happened with that guy? Joe, what happened with that guy? Anything I need to know about? Yeah, so-and-so fell on the ground when he was messing around with, so-and-so, and he hurt his ass. I don't know. Something like that. We have to know about that, because then I have to go over to the trainer. Hey, so did you check him? He fell on his butt. I don't know what happened. And, kind of goes down there if it needs to hit the head coach. If not, just make sure he's okay. Players estimated 1 rep max, so we always, kind of looking at their estimate from the first time, and then it really stays there, and we're kind of going off the, the 5 to 10 pound increases after 3 to 4 weeks of moving guys up. Sometimes we'll go 3 and then change. Sometimes we'll go 3, deload, re-hit it. Just depends, because I have a 9-week area there where the first week's kind of not that great of training, so everything's kind of depending on where we're at that year. Cards will change on a weekly basis based on performance. So if a guy goes out and he doesn't do real well, and we're like, man, that guy looks tired, or the O-line coach comes to me, that guy looked tired, he squat, how much did he squat, what did he do? There's a lot more to this, but for me, if I think the guy needs to be back down, that's when it happens. So not just because someone says it to me, but if I'm starting to notice something, this guy, you know what, every time we do this with this guy, or we do this certain exercise, he just struggles. He's in the training room all day getting rubbed on, and we need to change this up a little bit for this guy, get him to try it, and move on from there. The player's weekly card here. So each player is responsible to write down their reps achieved. We'll do it sometimes on their last set just so we make sure we get it in there and we know a coach saw it. If a weight was changed, okay? It's got to be by a coach. So we on the middle of our card, it says do the percentages on your card. In that conversation, we all know comes up, well, I can do more, coach. I can do more. I can do more for that. Yeah, but I don't care. That's what we're doing today. We don't always have to work at that complete maximal effort for us, especially in season. Do we do max effort stuff, true max effort? Yes, we do. But a lot of times in season especially, we can't do that because we have to go play a game on Sunday. So I have to make sure I'm always monitoring these guys because our O-linemen, they want to max single every week. Every week, bench and squat. They don't care. You got a game in 2 days. I don't care. I want to get this squat in. You got to love it, but at the same time, I also have to do my job and be able to say, not a good idea, man. It's not a good idea. And my guys know there's a certain guy on our team that I have to literally take him to the squat rack, and I have to stand there, and I have to control everything he does. Otherwise, he's just going to keep putting plates on until he can't do another set, and that is in season on a Wednesday because he loves to lift, and he doesn't know any better. But he's strong, and he wants to do it every time. That's not how we're working. And again, for us, it comes down to being organized and being able to take those guys and say, hey, let's back off. Let's be smart here and do the number on your card. The weekly cards modifications determined by the head strength coach must also be written on the card. So say we might watch a guy, and Aaron comes up and he's like, hey, check out so-and-so. It's a new modification. So so-and-so can't do this. He looks, he's doing a squat. He's got some type of lean to the right. His knees, he keeps telling me his knee hurts. We'll go over, check it out, and we might determine a modification for that day, and then we're going to circle around and make that modification for the long run to make sure that, hey, we're going to kind of reset this guy. So we might take him out of squat rack for a couple weeks, move to a safety bar, go to a belt squat, something like that, and then come back to the squat eventually. It's not just going to be eliminated and forgotten. It'll come back in. By having the information on card allows our staff to adjust for the next week. Use a system that works for you. So like I said, I'm a handwritten guy. I'm a card. I like to print them out. They look fancy and they're colorful, and we use a lot of colors because I feel it helps them separate because they'll be on Friday and it's a Monday or something like that, and you're like, just read the top. It's right there in big letters. For us, it makes it easy for us to kind of make the adjustments. The computer programs, there's a lot of good stuff out there. I currently don't use it. There's the iPad systems that you can use. Just use whatever works for you. Some guys are memory. I mean, that's always impressive to me. You go through and you kind of know what everybody did. But those are some things that help us stay organized as a staff. Conclusion for me, for us it's really, from coaching a large group and kind of working with the guys I work with, you always have to have a great plan. That plan might deviate, and that's just fine. But you better have a plan to start and know where you're going if something happens. And sometimes, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know what's going to happen. Like I said, I don't have the experience of Buddy. I'm still trying to figure the NFL out. It's still fairly new to me in year 6 where I haven't seen everything yet, and I don't claim to. So sometimes I tell these guys, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Coach, what do we got? I don't know. And I wait to find out, and once I find out, I go. But I can't see what's going to happen. It was interesting, too, when I had, from the transition of Rex to Coach Bowles, obviously a lot of changes happen. You have to have heavy communication with your head coach and figuring out, I didn't know exactly what coach was going to do coming in. So I had to figure out his system, and I have to adapt to that. Does he listen to me and let me communicate and give ideas? Absolutely, but at the end of the day, it's his team, so I need to be able to adapt my program, to the days or the time that he allows. And that's where, as far as us, as me as a strength coach, that's me. I want to adapt to what they have and do the best possible job I can. So I always have to be aware, again, going back, it's football. I always have to be aware of that at all times. Teach the players and coaches. At the end of the day, we're all teachers first. We all need to be able to teach. We all need to be able to communicate. I'm a way better teacher than motivator. So for me, being able to talk to a guy, being able to, again, be that psychologist, someone to lean on to talk to about something maybe they don't want to talk to their position coach about. I don't control playing time. So for a guy that we teach and we show a lot of love to, he might come sit in my office and just talk to me about, something's going on at home or something that's going on with the team and his frustrations. And again, I'd rather vent, just like I said, my support system of my family and friends, they can vent to me so they don't go vent to the GM and then they find themselves without a job. So that's some of the stuff I'm trying to do is be a coach, teach the players and teach your coaches as well. Large or small groups, it doesn't matter. Keep them in order. We have groups sometimes of like 5 to 10 guys. We'll keep them together. If we keep them together, we keep that team atmosphere and we keep rolling rather than, yeah, you're over there, you're over there, you're over there. We have times like that, to be honest with you, where it might be, it could be like a day when they have off after practice and there's an optional lift. Well, we might get some guys in, so we might kind of go that route a little bit more. But large or small groups, keeping them in order. If you can keep them in order, it's going to make your life a lot easier and you still feel like a coach. Sometimes you feel like a lifeguard and you're just trying to run around and make sure everybody's safe. But, control your groups. Keep the groups together. Do what you do. For me, again, in the day, for me, coming up, YouTube started to become big. The internet came out, and that's kind of where I'm at. All that stuff was available, and there's a lot of good. You can go on elitefts and see stuff and go to different people and see, different talks and different things like this. But you have to have some type of foundation of who you are and what you believe in. If I go from today I'm going to do all max effort, tomorrow I'm doing high intensity, or next week I'm doing high intensity, then I'm going to go back to Western periodization. I can't do that. I have to stick to what I believe in, because if I don't do that, then I'm just a fraud anyway. So do what you do. There's going to be some things you might try and put in there, and you come here and you go home and you're like, should I keep doing speed ladder? I don't know. I've heard it again. But do what you do and believe in what you're doing. If you need to change, this is another thing. If you feel like you need to change something, you better try it first. Because I've talked to some people now, and they're reading books. All right, I'm going to write this up for the team. Are you kidding me? You are going to fail. You are going to fail bad. If you do not run yourself through all these programs, you're in the wrong profession, because you better go through that thing, work out all the tweaks, because just because it says 6 sets of 10, and it sounds good, and then you do it and you're like, God, I cannot recover. I feel terrible. You better be doing all that stuff. You better do it more than 1 or 2 weeks. You better run the program the way you're going to run it with the team, the running you're going to do with the team. You have to do that stuff. You have to go through and do that. If you just start putting stuff in and you call and say, why are guys getting hurt? Well, what are you doing? Well, we read this book and we put this, it's a joke. You can't do that. You have to experience what they're experiencing. So for us, just real quick on this, we will take the program we're going to do in the off season. So any ideas that we want to bring into the program, and we'll run them. We'll do it the way they have it. We won't even necessarily do it in our program to begin with. Then once we say, no, that's good or that's bad, then we will work them into our program. Kind of where we're at now is we're progressing back to our off season as we're working stuff in, we're seeing what we like, and we're moving the rest out. But you've got to try that stuff before you go and put it in, because it's just a recipe for disaster. Keep the player safe. Number one goal for me is always keep my players safe, earn a respect. I'm on a respect level with these guys. Some of the guys are, when I first started, there was players older than me by like 4 years that I was yelling at. But it didn't have to be one guy I had to yell at that was older than me. It was a little awkward at the time. It's kind of funny. But, at that time, you get your respect, and you always want to be on that level. That's why I always say I'll communicate with guys. I'm never going to just be a no guy. Hey, why are you doing that? What's the deal with that? And as I go forward here, I want to make an Instagram highlight of what our guys have been doing. That'll be part of that conversation of why you're doing this. This isn't helping you get where you want to go. And the biggest thing, is staying organized. Be organized. I'm not incredibly organized. I'm going to be honest. I'm not incredibly organized people, but I've always hired people that are organized. Phil and Aaron have been great when they work for me. Kevon Latham, who's with the Redskins. Jason Osvard, who's with the Bills. These guys have been organized, and they keep me organized. Because my desk looks like Buddy's. It's a mess, but when we get out there, we have the plan, and we somehow stay organized because I have great people that work for me that help me do that. Thank you very much. I think I'm about on time.